Antonio Brown, AB, man. I don't know, one of the most celebrated receivers in our lifetime, right? Along with Randy Moss. Who else is one of the most celebrated receivers of our lifetime? Y'all talk to me. I could just think of Randy Moss at this time. You got Randy Moss. I know Odell Beckham Jr., man. He was off to a hot start. People really was celebrating in love with Odell Beckham Jr., but ultimately, I think Antonio Brown is the most celebrated wide receiver of our lifetime. And because of social media, he was one of those players that took advantage of social media when it came out, and he's garnered a lot of attention on social media. That helped him become one of the most celebrated receivers because he built such a strong following. But is Antonio Brown a first ballot Hall of Famer? That's what I want to know. Antonio Brown is a first time eligible for the class of 2027 Hall of Fame. He is 26 all time in receptions. I think he's around over 800 receptions in his career, 28th all time in receiving yards. He's over 12,000 yards receiving, close to 13, and he's 27th all time in career touchdowns, career receiving touchdowns. I think AB might be the most hyped receiver we've seen in a long time. That means celebrated as well, because he's celebrated. Everyone loves Antonio Brown, man. I didn't even realize it when I was in the NFL because I wasn't paying attention to the outside noise, how much people really loved Antonio Brown. But is he a first round Hall of Famer? Despite his off the field trouble, did he do enough to make it to the Hall of Fame as a first ballot? And if you don't understand or know, man, there's only a select few of receivers who made it to the Hall of Fame on the first go round. Those players who are on the first list were top in at least one of the major categories for receivers, talking about receiving yards, receptions, touchdowns. They was either top 5, top 10 or something. And AB didn't crack the top 10 in receptions, touchdowns, or receiving yards, but he had a hell of a 6-year stretch like other receivers had. But I think his 6-year stretch was kind of topped everyone's. Marvin Harrison kind of had some comparable numbers. Julio Jones, I compared to Antonio Brown. But I think Antonio Brown kind of topped everyone, by 1 or 2 touchdowns, by 100 or 200 yards in that 6-year stretch, right? So I don't know how that equation figures into this Hall of Fame, but he definitely was on the run. But then it was he self-sabotaged himself. He self-sabotaged himself. He was on a crazy streak, and then he decided to go crazy for whatever reason. He couldn't handle the fame and the money anymore. He got tired of the money. But does his off the field antics, does those things stop him from garnering the vote that he's supposed to gain as a first ballot? Shit, we witnessed Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens got screwed. T.O. got screwed by the Hall of Fame. And he was second all time at the time in receiving yards. And we all know and agree that Terrell Owens is supposed to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he was screwed. So what do y'all think in the chat? Do you think Antonio Brown is a first ballot Hall of Famer? Y'all talk to me. We're going to answer some questions in a few. And the most recent, right? The most recent first ballot Hall of Famer receivers are, we got Jerry Rice, are the most notable, right? You got Jerry Rice, got Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, got Larry Fitzgerald, and I think and Andre Johnson. So those are some of the caliber receivers that are first ballot. Now, all of these receivers, besides Calvin Johnson, are pretty much top 15, top 10 in receiving yards. Now, AB was an exceptionally dynamic player. He was an exceptionally dynamic player. And he has an awesome story to go along with it. The perfect story to fit, a great sports story. But AB, man, couldn't keep his head on his shoulders, right? I think the best stat in comparison with the other first ballot Hall of Famers is the 6-year stretch when he was dominating NFL. That is the only stat that he has when you're talking about first ballot Hall of Famers. Now, I'm not doing a deep dive where we're talking about yards per reception, yak yardage, and that means yards after catch and things like that. I'm talking about the main basic stats, right? Just AB self-sabotage himself, man. And, he's supposed to play 15 or more seasons. And if he plays 15 or more seasons, gains 3,000 or more yards. And he easily is in the top 10, top 5 all-time receiving yards, all-time receptions, and maybe touchdowns, right? And then if you want to put Antonio Brown in the Hall of Fame, we don't understand the criteria, but I don't know why Steve Smith Sr. is not in the Hall of Fame. I think he's like 8th all-time in receiving yards, and he was a dog. He defines what a wide receiver should be out on the field, a dog, smaller in stature, not running from anything, and he's a straight dog out there, but he still is in the Hall of Fame. And then you have guys like Reggie Wayne, that's debatable. You got Torrey Holt, you got Anquan Bolden. All these guys are within the top 20 when it comes to all-time receiving yards. Antonio Brown is 26th all-time or 28th all-time, I just don't see what justifies Antonio Brown being the first ballot Hall of Fame. Maybe he's supposed to be a second, maybe a third ballot. But first ballot, that is, whoo, man, that is supposed to be something very special and unique. Like I said, if he stayed focused and gained another 3,000 yards, he could easily be that guy with that first ballot Hall of Fame. Now, Calvin Johnson, he isn't top in yards, receptions, and things like that, but he had 1 or 2 amazing seasons that is just totally undeniable. He broke the records, and Calvin Johnson is Megatron. Megatron in itself, man. That is an outstanding name, and there's a lot of hype to live up to.